Hey, and welcome. Happy Friday. I do this every week. I'm going to be sharing with you an astrology update. It's super weird not saying welcome to Kind of Sound Radio. For those of you who've been listening to the astrology show, we're no longer doing it there, but we are doing it every week, still on a Friday, still with the update, still with a topic every week that I'm going to be sharing. And it's going to be on my YouTube channel and a little bit on my socials too. So my YouTube channel, Evolve with Grace, Stella Grace, and Stella Grace Holistics on Facebook and Instagram. If you haven't already followed Kind of Sound Radio, please do. They are an amazing energy on an amazing mission to spread kindness and support the collective. And they're doing some really, really incredible things. And I've got some other shows coming up there in the near future. But for now, let's get into our astrology. So we have got a fantastic and a very rich topic to discuss today, which I absolutely love. We're discussing the new moon and the rich ground, not only of the new moon, but there's very much a sense of rich ground and prosperity energy from this week and throughout the month of May. Now, I really love this for giving us an opportunity to think about where our thoughts are at, to think about how we're showing up each day and how we're shaping our realities. So I'm going to get into that in a moment. We're also going to come on to the current astrological weather for the week. Now, if you see me looking down, I've got my astrology chart here. And so I'm going to be making some references there. I've got the new moon chart up in front of me there. And I'm going to be making some references to that as we go through and after I've covered the topic. So if you see me looking down, I'm looking at the chart and sharing with you what the planets are doing. So, rich ground. Now, the reason we have such rich ground at the moment is because we are in Taurus season, number one. There's a number of reasons, but let's start with Taurus season. So Taurus season, as we've touched on before, and interestingly, if you want to go back to any of the other shows that we've done, because there's lots of transferable energy and there's lots of astrology information there. There's a whole host of Kind of Sound podcasts on my website, stellagrace.me, or on the kindofsound.org website. There's a whole load of information. But we've been talking a bit about the embodiment of Taurus season last week there. And that was really beautiful energy for grounding into our bodies in terms of a place of safety, a place of grounding, self-care, nurturing, inner richness. And all of this then reflects out into our outer world. So following on from that theme, this is the next step on really in terms of we are creating an inner richness that will then reflect in our outer world. So we've got this prosperity energy this week. And really, in a nutshell, I'll go through each of the reasons of each of the energy factors as to why we've got such access to prosperity energy. But really, we are invited to shift our consciousness. We can do this in any given moment, but the energies is really, really supportive for that right now. So if you're not already doing this, it's a great time to start from shifting any poverty consciousness, any sense of lack into a place of richness and abundance. That has to start with us before it can show up in our outer world. So this is a great time to start shifting and healing some of those mindset, some of those beliefs, some of those perhaps limiting beliefs that we've been so conditioned by, or that we may have had, negative experiences in life. So they've left us feeling in a sense of lack, or our circumstances might not yet be what we want them to be. Now, this isn't about denying that. This isn't about saying, well, let's pretend we're wealthy. Let's pretend we've got lots of abundance if we're not seeing that show up in our physical reality yet. But it's remembering that if our life is not filled with abundance yet, that has to start with our mindset first. So that it's an inside job. It starts as an inside job, and then that's reflected in our outer world. So we've got the Taurus season is ripe ground, literally. Taurus season being the earth sign, the fixed earth sign that really nurtures our stability, our solidity, our structures, our finances. Everything that's linked really to the material realm is supported by Taurus. And in Taurus season, we can really access a kind of deeper connection with those areas. So Taurus season itself, there's a powerhouse of 5 planets around the new moon this week, coming up on the 8th, that are in Taurus as well. So as well, we've got the sun and the moon. So that gives us, the sun gives us a real life force energy generally. And so when that's in Taurus for this month, we've got all of those themes that I just mentioned kind of being highlighted and being an opportunity to kind of build awareness on and look at how we're navigating our finances, how we're navigating the physical realm, the earthly plane, the things that we show up to each day. It's a real opportunity to look at those. The moon there on the new moon on the 8th with the sun there is bringing some reflection, and it's bringing an opportunity also to start the new lunar month ahead from the 8th of May with your intentions. So new moons generally are a great time for setting intentions. They're a great time for planting new seeds. In contrast to this week, so at time of recording it's Friday the 3rd of May, we're still in the last quarter of the moon at the moment. This isn't a great time for forging forward with new plans. But for next week, on the 8th, when the new moon is here, that will be the time. So this week up until the 8th is a really good time to cultivate anything else you want to clear out before we get to the new moon on the 8th. Also, this is a really good time to cultivate this shift in mindset that I've been discussing. So clearing out old limiting beliefs, clearing out old scarcity, clearing out old habits that keep you feeling in a sense of lack. And I'm going to come on to some more tools in a minute as well about how to help shift from a poverty consciousness or a poverty mindset to one that's more wealthy, and see that attract and grow in our physical realities and worlds as well. So we're going to come on to all of that. So with Taurus season and these 5 planets in Taurus, we've got all of this emphasis on Mother Earth, our self-care, our nurturing, our nourishment. And these are all Taurus themes, and these are all things that once we adopt and kind of really embrace and embody in our inner world and in our physical world, in ourself, we can see the benefits of that kind of growing, and the seeds that we're planting with that inner world really cultivating and growing in the external world. So Taurus season is an amazing time in itself generally. Plus, we also have Venus now in Taurus. Now, this is another absolutely kind of powerhouse placement for prosperity. So the other thing I just want to go back to, the new moon on the 8th, 8th being a prosperity number in numerology. For those of you who like your numbers, I only do a little bit with numbers, but I know that the 8 is a really great prosperity and abundance number. It's also linked to divinity. So there's never really been a better time to kind of utilize those energies of abundance, both inner and outer, and using the new moon to perhaps bring in, areas that you want to see more prosperity in, or even in your own thinking. It's a really great time to do that. So we've got the Taurus season is a great energy indicator for bringing more richness into your life. We've got Venus in Taurus. Now, Venus is moving through Taurus. She went into Taurus on the 29th of April, and she's going to be there until the 23rd of May. And so in that time, Venus really touches the places that are linked to our relationship. So both inner and outer again. So it's always as within, so without. It's always starting with self, and that then being reflected outwards. So we have Venus going through the earthly realm sign of Taurus, and Venus is also about aesthetics, pleasurable things, romance, beauty, but also finances, and again that inner and outer level of resource. So it's another opportunity to really utilize a great relationship with self, really adopting your self-care practices, your daily kind of staple practices. If you're not already doing something for yourself that really stabilizes and kind of solidifies your sense of self and your self-care, then there's never been a better time to do that. That's a really, really great use of this energy, and again is reflected outwards. Venus also is, a touch of luxe. It's the things that we find beautiful. It might be the nice items around our home. It's the aesthetics. It's things that we value, again, both inner and outer. And it not being, a superficial or a shallow thing. We don't have to judge why we might like to, have beautiful things around our home. Of course, we want, that makes us feel good on the inside. I always have you might notice if you know my videos, I always have my flowers. I buy fresh flowers every week because it brings me joy to see that beauty around me. And so it's actually one of my self-care tips. And it's super easy to do and inexpensive as well. And it's very Venusian. So Venus energy is, it's the goddess energy, it's fresh flowers, it's beautiful things, it's having little reminders around your home and in your world that are that are luxurious, that are abundant, that keep you feeling joyful. And Venus is really kind of strengthening that energy moving through Taurus. It's really firming up for us, where our relationship with self is, where our relationship outside of ourselves, how our relationships are doing externally. And we're going to come on to a little bit more about relationships after we've discussed the topic. But she's, really kind of traveling through the area of our stable ground, bringing it into the physical realm. So this is a really good access point to bring in that which you wish to see externally. Now, there's been a huge amount of conditioning for a long time on poverty consciousness, and this really, when we think about it, it's not really surprising, is it? Money and power has been very, very misused and displaced disproportionately across the globe. So, we haven't been used to being in, having equal shares, and some of us have not, cracked, if you like, the wealth consciousness. And I'm on this journey with you, my situation is not still currently 100% where I'd like it to be. I love my life and I have so many amazing blessings in my life that I appreciate every day. And I'm going to talk to you a bit more about that as one of the tools in a minute. But I'm doing this with you. I'm really aware of where I've been in a sense of lack and how that has shaped my reality in previous years. And I'm no longer doing that. So I'm on the journey with you. I think it's a really fascinating time to be growing and evolving and shifting our mindset and shifting our consciousness. And so poverty consciousness has been around being used to not having enough, being used to scraping by, not feeling deserving of having more. And that might be quite subconscious. That might not be something that we think about, in previous years. I might not have gone around thinking, oh, well, I don't deserve this, I don't deserve that. But actually underneath it all, that's the limiting belief that's often there and is a really common one for many of us. So, it's really shifting up our sense of self, our sense of self-worth is huge, and Venus is supporting us to do that at this time. So there's a lot of prosperity energy. It's really a good time for looking at this as well in terms of frequency. So if our current reality doesn't look how we want it to look yet, it's not easy to say, oh, well, I feel really luxe, or I think really luxe, or, I can kind of really think abundantly. But that's the practice. That's the bit that needs to come first. It's adopting those thoughts. So in terms of tools and in terms of shifting our mindset and our consciousness up a gear into a more abundant frequency and consciousness, because that's where frequency will start, with choosing a new thought. The frequency doesn't necessarily come first. We have to adopt it and change up our frequency. And that's when then more things will start coming to us that match that frequency of abundance. It's a really fascinating it's a frequency game, really. We change our frequency and we watch the world respond to that. It's really fascinating when you start playing about with your frequency. If you're not doing this already, I really invite you to do so. So my first tool that I'm going to share with you, and this is something that I'm doing at the moment, I invite you to do this with me, is the May Blessings Challenge. So I had some intuitive guidance drop in on the 1st of May that I was going to be receiving a blessing every single day in the month of May. So be ready to see and receive that. And that was my message. And I love that. And I really invite you to adopt kind of almost like a blessings diary. You don't have to write it down, but you can if you want to. That might be a nice little journaling practice if you like your journaling. But this is about seeing the blessings that come into your life, because when we notice them, and this is a frequency of gratitude for you, and the power of that, the power of gratitude is huge. It's a frequency that's really high vibrational, so it attracts more of what you're thankful for because you're raising your vibration, and therefore you're going to be attracting a higher vibration in your world externally. So this is I want to say this is a scientific, process, if that kind of helps to put a label on it a bit clearer. This is actually a thing. Energy, we've talked and known about energy for a long time. This isn't anything new. Scientists, if you like, have been talking about this stuff for years, that when we observe something, we actually impact it. So how we are when we're observing something will have an impact on the outcome. Now, if you use that rule and use that finding, use that scientific measurement, then we can see how we can impact that which we are looking at. We can impact our environment, we can impact our reality, and that way we can shape our reality. So it's actually incredibly empowering when you start to utilize these tools rather than just going along with how things have always been done or how you've always done things. This is the thing about growing. It's such a fascinating time to be alive, and such a fascinating time with this awareness that we have access to. And if you've heard me talking about astrology before, you'll know that I don't feel that we give up our power away to the planets. We utilize that energy as a reflection. We all have all of the planets' essences and energies within all of us. And the stars are really a great kind of map. They're like a bit of a road map. They can give us directions and they can give us guidance. And with awareness of that, we get to kind of co-create with the universe more consciously. We get to utilize the energies, and you can do any of these things any day of the year. Anything that sings to you, anything that you feel will be a helpful tool, then please adopt it at any time. Don't wait for the new moon or whatever it is. But these are just interesting kind of awareness points that we can tap into and use. So I hope you'll join me for the May Blessings, the May Daily Blessings Challenge, which I'm loving at the moment. I've noticed some really beautiful gifts coming in. It might not always be, we're not necessarily looking out for huge sums of money, but what we're thinking about here is where we're receiving blessings, where we're receiving things that are gifts to us. So this could be, anything in the form of a great conversation. It could be winning a competition. It could be finding a really great book that really resonates with you. There's lots of ways that we can receive blessings. So I really urge you to count your blessings for every day in May and just see how that frequency lifts you, and see how that frequency starts bringing more of that in. The more blessings we count and look out for, the more we're able to receive. It's like an accumulation energy. Frequency works like that. What we focus on, we give momentum to. So if you focus on your blessings, you will receive more of them. It's just a given science, a given energy. It's a given law of the universe. So this is really beautiful prosperity energy for us that we haven't always been used to. I appreciate that, we've not been used to. We've not been, I don't know about you, but I was never kind of taught at school to think about my energy or to play with energy. The Reiki journeys really taught me about that initially, quite a lot more than most things. So that's been really interesting. So I invite you to think about your energy, think about your frequency. If you're feeling another tool, so that's the first tool, the May Daily Blessings tool, Encounter, is a really good first tool. Secondly, it's about choosing another thought. And I'm going to come on to some of the astrology that really supports this around the new moon as well. So choosing another thought. So again, we might be used to thinking and feeling that we don't have enough. We might have not had enough. So that has been perhaps a really tangible reality, but that doesn't mean we have to stay there. So choosing a next higher thought is again really shifting to our frequency, and then kind of helps us to lift and be able to receive more. So if we're kind of thinking, I'm not going to get that, I'm not feeling like I'm going to get that energy today, I'm not feeling like I'm going to achieve that, I'm not good enough, it shouldn't be me, what have I got to say, any kind of thoughts of lack or low self-worth, when you can catch those and shift it up. So, who am I not to do that? Who am I not to have those conversations? Who am I not to build on my abundance? Who am I not to get wealthy in my inner and outer world? Who are you not to, so we can really shift our thinking. Now, looking at the chart, the astrology really supports this as a healing moon. We had the full moon 2 weeks ago, was a really healing moon. And so what we've kind of got is this really healing portal of these moons at the moment. And that is because we have Mercury and Chiron going exactly conjunct again on the new moon on the 8th this week, and they were conjunct on the last full moon 2 weeks ago. What that means is Mercury, the planet of our thinking, our ideas, our communication, is in a very close relationship to Chiron. Chiron is our wounded healer. It's the shamanic energy, it's the therapist energy, it's ultimately the alchemist energy, which I absolutely love. So it's turning the old wounds we might have received and have old hurts by into wisdom and our gold for moving forwards. And those two planets together, making this synergy that they do together when planets combine or come very close to each other like that, what we have is a connection and a heightening of their properties together. So there has, again, never been a better time to heal our thinking, to heal our old consciousness and raise it to a new, more healed level. So it's a really supportive energy for shifting from poverty mindset to wealth mindset by adopting, tools. This might not all happen overnight. This isn't necessarily saying, this isn't a get rich quick scheme. This isn't like, positive thinking and the next minute everything in your life is going to show up. But what it is it's definitely a process towards that. And why can't we have, our highest potential? That's what we're here for. Again, other astrology really supports that. We've got a huge amount happening with the North Node in Aries. So just a few degrees up from Mercury and Chiron that I mentioned, they're supporting the healing processes of our thinking and from our previous wounding or from our previous kind of life experiences. We've also got the North Node there, which is about our destiny. And so we've got this huge healing portal and potential that serves to kind of provide a step up, really, like a leg up to our next greatest potential, our next highest decision, our next best version of ourselves, because we're all growing together, aren't we? We're all in this together, we're all growing. And it's a process for sure, but it also takes our consciousness, it takes our awareness to raise up, to take these legs up from the universe and really grow in the way that we want to and the way that we want to see our lives around us. We have to be kind of active participants in this. So we've got this amazing rich ground. Like the topic of this discussion today, we've got this beautiful, nurturing, really rich, abundant ground. Think of it like really fertile soil with Taurus season. We've got this to grow in right now. And again, the pinnacle point being the new moon on the 8th of May with this healing energy around it as well. And then going throughout the month of May with Venus continuing to travel through Taurus for the month of May. Now that's a lot on the inner world and the inner work and thinking about our thoughts and our behaviors and choosing a higher kind of decision. And we can really reflect that in our awareness. this is also reflected in the collective as well. So we've got Saturn in Pisces, literally dissolving structures. So this is about a new earth. This is what we're talking about as well. Shifting our consciousness to a more wealthy consciousness is also shifting away from the sense of lack and the way things have been done for some time. And that's about the structure and the system that we have been in, the powers that be, the things that we've been used to, how we've been led for a long time, that has been very suppressive and has been very much around a sense of scarcity and lack, because the wealth hasn't been evenly distributed, as I touched on earlier, and we're moving away from that. The fascinating thing about being alive at this time is we are evolving hugely, and that includes the system, not looking as it does now. It won't look like this for a huge amount longer, because we've got some huge astrology supporting that, and we know from looking around, things are shifting again. If we think about how wealth consciousness is shifting, and we've got the technological age and the age of Aquarius all supporting these things are being done very differently, and so we really get to kind of hop on board with that. So as we're shifting on the inside, as we're looking at how our wealth consciousness and we're leaving behind our limiting beliefs on the inside, we're also seeing the structures and systems shifting on the outside, and it's all this big reflection. And we are a part, of course, of the collective consciousness. So any work we do on ourselves individually supports the collective, and vice versa. And when things aren't looking so good around us in the collective, when life is showing some heavy energy or some, dark stuff's going on, or, the system wants to pull back with something because it's, ultimately changing, and we might have spells where things are tricky in the world, of course. But it's then back to us to keep our vibration high, keep coming back to what am I needing? What do I need to do to shift up my state? And then in that way we get to, hold our frequency, hold our light, and shift up into kind of really experiencing the blessings in our life and building on that. So it's a fascinating time. So as well as Saturn in Pisces dissolving the structures, we've also got Pluto in Aquarius, which again, there's previous podcasts on lots of these things on thekindersound.org when we were doing the astrology show there for many months, and there's lots of great info there about the kind of longer term astrology, and I'll weave it into the coming weeks as well, because it's all relevant for how we're evolving. It's really fascinating times to be alive and see how we are shifting and growing and changing for the better. So we're with Pluto actually in Aquarius. I'm going to talk a little bit about that now in terms of the current astrology. So Pluto actually went retrograde yesterday in Aquarius, and he is also squaring Venus for the next couple of days as well. So I'm going to touch on relationships there. But to start with Pluto going retrograde yesterday in Aquarius, for about the next 6 months, Pluto will be retrograding. And just to say, retrogrades can bring up a fair amount of fear, or, a bit of like, what does that bring? We hear about retrograde, everything going wrong. It's really an invitation, again, to cultivate a good inner change, a good inner transformational process, particularly Pluto's transformation. So when any planet is in retrograde, it's an opportunity to slow down and take stock of some of the inner kind of workings or dynamics or awareness. It's when planets go retrograde, appearing to move backwards, what that is offering us is a pause. It's like a review energy, a rethinking of something. It can be a reconfirming of something, or it can be, needing more information before we move forward. So with Pluto in Aquarius being retrograde, we've got, again, this big focus on structures, and again, collectively we're looking at how the structures are going through death and rebirth cycles. We might want to look at our own inner death and rebirth cycles as well, how we've transformed through big life events. It doesn't mean physical deaths necessarily, usually not at all. Usually it's meaning the death of old chapters, the death of old ways of being. Again, very supportive of changing our consciousness, clearing out the old, the death of things that are no longer serving you, the death of things that have decayed, and ready to make space and make way for the new, for the higher choices, for the higher consciousness, for the more potential unfolding in our lives and in the system collectively. So it's a really, really fascinating time. And so we've got Pluto retrograding for the next 6 months, touching back into Capricorn as well in that time. And so again, very much linked to our legacy, our finances, our building of structures. We can really rethink on some of those things. We get to rethink how we do finances. We get to rethink how we feel abundant, and how we value our self-worth, and how we value the powers that be around us, and our own authority as well, you know, being in our own positive authority. Because again, many of us might not have been used to being empowered in a really positive way. So we get to kind of reparent ourselves in this energy and think about how we do these things in a really positive way, in a new kind of higher self-value way, going back to the Venus links, you know, really utilizing that energy of worth. It's an amazing time to do that. And just making sure I haven't forgotten anything yet. So the last point I wanted to raise on the current astrology is still a little bit for the next couple of days, where Pluto is in Aquarius squaring Venus in Taurus, as we've just touched on. So this is going to knock off over in a few more days, but we've had this for the last couple of weeks as well, this energy of control in relationships. And again, this can be within ourselves, because Venus touching all relationships, so that's a relationship that we have with ourselves first and foremost as well, but also our external relationships. And I touched on this a couple of weeks ago, that there can be some issues of control and power dynamics playing out in relationships at this time. So if that speaks to you, you know, this is a real opportunity to think about how you are empowering yourself through this period of time, and things might be shown to you where there's been an imbalance of power, and that this is an opportunity to really kind of, you know, clear out that old energy that needs to go, that needs to die, so that a new rebirth of more positive, pure potential, highest power, positive authority can be adopted in your life. So any kind of power dynamics that you notice are really a good time again to go back to that healing, go back to how we are addressing things in a way that, yes, those negative instances in the past may have occurred, yes, wounds may have happened, yes, we may have been used to, you know, living in circumstances that were less than ideal. Now's the time to shift it up. Now's the time to heal on that and go, yeah, okay, I can look at those wounds, but I can take the wisdom from them and grow and use them for my newfound resilience, my newfound wisdom, my newfound awareness. What have I learned and gained from all of that, and from any dynamics that have been playing out recently? What am I actually here for? You know, what am I prepared to put up with? And so it's a really good time for cultivating all those questions that are ultimately around serving your highest potential. So I'm going to leave you with that for this week. I'm going to be here again doing this every Friday around 10 in the morning, and I'll upload it to my YouTube then and share snippets of it on my socials. So I hope you'll join me for those. It's going to be every Friday. I'm really looking forward to it. Our topic next week will be coming out soon. And I think, you know, I'm just going to finish actually with a little card pull. For those of you who like your oracle, like me, and one day in the not too distant, it'll be my own deck that I'm pulling, because I've nearly finished writing my whole deck. I'm about 34 cards done. As I look at that, it's minute 34, isn't that interesting? 34 cards I've written out of my 44 card deck. So watch out for my Oracle deck. Maybe, I want to say around the end of the year, hopefully. And I'll be using that one day. For now, I'm using the beautiful Rebecca Campbell's The Healing Waters. This is a stunning energy for, okay, we're having that one. This is a stunning energy for looking at this healing portal around the moon as well. And if we're thinking about shifting our consciousness from poverty, to wealth, and sense of lack to abundance, then this is a great one. So we've got the Healing Lagoon. I'll show you that one there, the beautiful Rebecca Campbell's Healing Waters deck, and we've got the Healing Lagoon. Rejuvenate, recovery, time to heal, it's safe to stop. So it's like I planned it, isn't it? But I didn't. It's just a beautiful synchronicity of the universe. So utilizing the retrograde energy of Pluto to thinking about our inner world and our cycles of what we're closing and what we're wanting to bring forward, and also adopting the self-care and the rejuvenation and the restoration of Taurus season, which is amazing, and also counting our blessings. So I really invite you to do the May Daily Blessings challenge with me, and I'd love to hear how you're getting on. I'd love to hear some comments on this video around counting your blessings. What have you noticed today? Even let's start. What have you noticed? What blessings have you received already, however big or small? I'd love to hear them. Please share them with me. Look forward to seeing you next week. Have the best week ahead. Enjoy that new moon and the healing portal around it, and I will catch you next week. Lots of love.